Yo, what's up, everyone? A British Potato here. We're doing another react to another Griffin video because why not? Free content, free money. I barely have to do anything. Just smooth sailing. So let's watch this video. We'll see how it goes.
See what happened. I know the FTC is going to fight this. A very bad precedent because something on this scale, it's huge. And if the FTC loses its appeal, we're going to see so much consolidation so quickly, and it's going to start transferring wealth to the top even faster. But this is not going to be good for you. This is not something that you should be gloating about on social media.
Wow.
This is not a way to like score one against the other console people that you hate so much. This is not that. This is bad for all of us. It's bad for culture. It'll set a terrible precedent moving forward.
What's up, gamers? I hope you guys are all having a great day today. Just full of so much positivity and happiness, dude. Because in all honesty, man, this video that we're going to be checking out here today was handed to me on a silver platter. Because when I uploaded my previous video, I actually watched it through to make sure everything was okay before I hit publish. And well, this was the #1 recommended video right after mine. So it's like YouTube literally put this right in front of me, knowing that I'd probably make a response to it. And this video is definitely worthy of that, man.
We need to talk about the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger acquisition thing.
Now, the title of this wonderful video we're going to be watching is The Microsoft Activision Blizzard Merger is Terrible, and you're crazy if you support it. That's right, guys. You may think you're just getting Call of Duty and Diablo and Game Pass, but in fact, it's terrible for the video game industry, and you're batshit fucking crazy if you think this is a good thing. But yeah, using Dreamcast Guy's Twitter poll as a basis for a YouTube video is already a great start.
We need to talk about the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger acquisition thing. I saw a poll online, and this is not one of those things where I saw one person say something and I'm going to outrage farm based upon what one obscure person said. I saw a poll, and it said, is this going to be good for consumers, yes or no? And it was an overwhelming yes vote. Since when was consolidation ever good for consumers?
I can actually answer this pretty easily, man. Do you guys remember back in the day when Netflix was the only streaming service in town? And, well, they didn't really have to compete with anyone, so they basically had every single TV show, every single movie that you wanted to watch. It was like $8 or $10 a month, and it wasn't until quote-unquote competition got involved when everything started going to other streaming services. You couldn't just use Netflix if you wanted to watch all the stuff you watched in the past. And on top of that, because Netflix had to compete with all of those streaming services, they had to start making more original content, which means they needed to pay for it. So in order to pay for it, they increased the price of their service. I don't think anyone could actually argue that the streaming service industry right now, when it comes to movies and TV shows, is better unconsolidated versus when it was consolidated under Netflix previously. I mean, we literally are talking about entertainment products at the end of the day. So personally, I would rather have more games or more publishers under one umbrella that I buy a service from versus having 15 different services out there that I have to subscribe to.
Before we get into talking about all this money, let me show you my new wallet. Like most highly sophisticated people, I wear ridiculously tight jeans.
Alright, fuck that. We're skipping this shit.
Look what Disney has done with all of the brands and everything that it has acquired. But first off, I want to show you where some of this is coming from. It's not just the console wars of nonsense. It's not just a bunch of fans of Microsoft Xbox just being like, yeah, eat it, suck it, PlayStation fans.
Yeah, because believe it or not, bro, the majority of people that play video games don't exactly interact with a bunch of fucking fanboy retards on Twitter. They're just more interested in more games being available in Game Pass for their money, which I think is a net positive no matter how you want to.
I'm going to use the restroom.
It's kind of hard to believe we're at a point where we're debating the merits of more value being added to a subscription service, but yup, here we are, man.
A lot of it starts with this message that we're hearing, and I'll play it right now. Well, let's continue this narrative.
Good news, I think, is starting to prevail that ultimately, if it's good for the consumer, the government can't just block everything. And right now, the government's been in a block everything. And as we've said repeatedly, in many of these...
So did you hear what he said there? If it's good for the consumer. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, he's going to argue that it's bad for the consumer because he's saying if, but let's keep going.
Bro, how did you even arrive at that conclusion? It was pretty straightforward what he was saying.
These examples, these deals are actually good for consumers.
The dead eyes of one who defends corporations. Ooh. I mean, my guy, are you really one to be throwing stones when it comes to other people's appearances?
They're good for pricing. They're good for choice. And
they're good for pricing. They're good for choice. Having one corporate overlord own everything is good for pricing and good for choice.
That is quite literally not what he fucking said, bro. He's literally talking about how Microsoft bringing in more game developers under their umbrella to pad out Xbox Game Pass presents a better value proposition to their consumers for the subscription price with more content being available. Like, are we really going to debate that shit? He's not arguing that they should be the only console manufacturer, that they should be the only publisher, that they should be the only game subscription service on the market. He's simply stating that by merging companies together in the technology sector, you can take advantage of a principle known as synergy, in which two companies combined can optimize their cost basis and pass savings on to the consumer and generate more profits than if they were to operate separately, which if you look at the case of Microsoft, it makes perfect sense, them buying more game publishers to merge with their existing gaming division. I mean, I understand not everybody goes to fucking business school like I did, but this is a pretty basic fucking principle. I mean, even look at Disney, which is what he pointed out earlier. Like, whether you like their content or not, I don't think anyone can deny the fact that Disney Plus having more content available in that subscription service presents a better value proposition. Now, trust me, Disney content is absolute fucking dog shit, but from a purely objective standpoint,
I don't want to get Bud Light beer. That's disgusting.
Content you have within a subscription service, the better value
why would I get Bud Light beer? Come on,
especially
think
if you
about
take
that.
subjective
It's piss
quality
water.
metrics
You want me to
out
pick
of
up
the
piss
equation,
water? Like,
because, I
let
mean,
me pick up good
obviously
beer,
anybody
right?
can
Like
argue that Disney
Modelo's,
Plus is a
right?
dog shit value.
They have this
because
new
everything in there is
Modelo
dog
that
shit.
has salt and
I
lime in it.
100% agree with that
Very
statement,
delicious.
but
I can
if
pick
you
some
look
of
at
that
it
up
from
for
an
you.
objective standpoint, I really doubt you could make a case for how adding more content, whether you like it or not, doesn't increase the value presented by that subscription service.
You know, back in the day, our government used to break up monopolies by saying it's bad for consumers, it's bad for the market. We don't want to have just one company that controls everything.
My guy, Activision Blizzard and Xbox combined does not even equal the size of PlayStation's market share in the video game industry. By which fucking definition is that a monopoly? Throughout this entire process, people's misuse of the word monopoly is fucking comical to me, because a monopoly implies that you
I just
control
checked. I do
so
have
much of
Modelo's
the
in the
market
fridge.
that it makes it basically
just bring those over. I'm
impossible
not going to
for
pick
any
up piss
other
water.
company to
I'm not going to go to the
compete within that
store
market.
just
Well,
to pick
guess
up
what,
piss
dude?
water.
The
That's
majority of the
gross.
video game industry is made
No,
up
I'm not
by the
doing
mobile
that.
market. So unless Microsoft somehow gets control of Apple and Google,
Oh,
which
no,
is
I'm
literally
doing this.
fucking impossible,
I'm
they
re-
could
re-
not even
I'm reacting to
come
the
close
shitty fucking
qualifying
video.
as what would
I'm
be
barely even
considered
paying
a
attention to it.
monopoly.
I'm
Last
just
time I
waiting
checked,
for it to end
Sony
so I
and
can
Nintendo
re-upload it
are
on my
still
channel.
alive and
You know,
kicking.
no big deal.
Steam is doing well. Epic Games is doing
I
well.
don't know what it's
and the
about. I
mobile
don't really give a
platforms
shit.
are doing
I'm
well.
just doing
so
it for the
I don't
views.
understand how Xbox buying one publisher somehow throws that entire fucking balance into disarray.
But now a lot of these companies have been going to the lawmakers and saying, listen, this whole, anti-monopoly thing, that wasn't to try to stop the corporations from becoming too big. That was mainly to protect the people. And we believe that it's better for the people if there's less competition, because one giant mega company can come in and control the entire supply chain, and we can lower the prices for them, and we can take better care of them, and it's more convenient.
That's right, man. He uncovered Microsoft's master plan. It's to control the entire supply chain of video games. But yeah, just wait, because, I mean, this entire argument is really fucking stupid if you actually think about what we're talking about, and that is literally fucking video games, dude. Something of zero consequence.
Because now, instead of having to go through multiple different companies and go to one store to get your cheese and go to a different store to get your vegetables, we can go to one store and buy everything, and it's cheaper and easier for the consumers. So we believe that monopoly laws were designed to protect consumers from having to deal with nonsense.
I would like to draw everyone's attention to the FTC's literal mission statement as stated on their own website. The Federal Trade Commission's mission: to prevent business practices that are anti-competitive or deceptive or unfair to consumers, to enhance informed consumer choice and public understanding of the competitive process, and to accomplish this without unduly burdening legitimate business activity. In what world is a company purchasing another
Oh, wow,
company
he's a lawyer
at
now.
legitimate
Can you
business
imagine that,
activity?
being a lawyer?
Notice how the word
Pretending to be a
consumer is
lawyer.
stressed on several
Fucking
different
idiot.
occasions, man. Their main focus is towards the American consumer to make sure they are not hit with anti-competitive, deceptive, or unfair business practices. It is not the American
What are you, a
government's
lawyer?
job to preserve companies' positions in
Get
the
it?
market.
Because he's
Since
he's giving me a
everything under one
definition. That
roof
means
is
he's a lawyer.
good, we can essentially make the world a better place. That's kind of what they're saying.
Only this doesn't even come close to qualifying as everything under one roof, my dude. Do you not understand how massive the video game industry is?
We hear that narrative from him. The judge who rejected this. All right, so here they're all like talking about protecting consumers by allowing massive monopolies and mergers.
Again, if you really think this qualifies as a monopoly,
Don't
you're
you
just too
want
far
me,
gone. Like, I understand
baby?
it's popular on social media
Don't you
these days to be like,
want me
big company bad,
bad?
but holy fuck, dude, at least have some
Don't
sort of
you
idea of what you're
want
talking
me,
about.
baby?
She says, it's not the harm to Sony we
Don't
care
you
about.
want
It's the
me
harm to the
bad?
consumers.
Exactly, which is stated in the FTC's very own mission statement.
What is he, a
So by-
lawyer?
And that she blocked the FTC's complaints. This face right here, this is the person who decided that they should be allowed to merge because it's good for the consumers.
Gaming.
No, she never argued that it was an overall beneficial thing for consumers. She said it posed no apparent harm to consumers. There's a very key distinction there. It is not the FTC's job to protect certain businesses within an industry. It is the FTC's job to make sure consumers are not directly harmed by certain businesses within the industry.
So it's good for the consumers that Microsoft is going to have a huge share of the market, massive share of the market, and that they're going to be able to put all that stuff on their console and withhold it from other consoles.
Except the only problem with that statement is Activision and Xbox combined do not even come close to the size of Sony's market share in the video game industry. So again, dude, have some semblance of an idea of what you're talking about. And on top of that, dude, like if you're arguing in favor of having more competition out there in the market, shouldn't you be encouraging Microsoft to play catch up to Sony and Nintendo in terms of gaining more market share within the video game industry so there's more companies on that level holding Nintendo and Sony accountable? I mean, by your own logic, a strong Xbox that can actually go to bat with companies like Nintendo and Sony that own significantly more of the market share than Xbox did previously, that would improve the situation for consumers, right? See, this is where the argument completely falls apart, my guy.
Sorry, I wasn't
That
paying
good for the
attention. What is he
consumer.
talking
We're
about?
gonna give them
I don't even know what's
better,
happening anymore.
thing because then they can get all this stuff under one umbrella. They can
I'm
get
supposed
all
to be
the stuff from Bethesda and
Oh, wait, I am
Bethesda.
reacting.
Since
Yeah, I
they've got
forgot.
it all, they're going to lower the prices.
No one is expecting Microsoft to lower their prices. What it does do is it pads an already existing subscription service with more value for your monthly fee. If anything, from what I've seen, most people share the sentiment that Game Pass's
Oh, yeah, for
price is
sure.
going to rise as a direct result of this
Wow.
acquisition, which I don't think
Really?
anyone has a problem with because it still
No way.
presents a clear value to most people, even under those circumstances.
No
Every
way. Really?
piece
That's
of
crazy.
empirical data shows that when companies like Amazon exist and once they completely destroy all the mom and pops and all the small competition, they don't lower their prices. That would be insane for them to do. Once there's no other choices for the consumers, they can just raise their prices as high as they want, and that is what they have done.
All right, now we're talking about two completely different industries where Amazon actually serves a critical function to society and video games are literally luxury entertainment products. But even then, no, Amazon has not jacked up their prices. They're still the cheapest place to get most stuff.
That's why we've seen record inflation. It's not because we're printing gazillions of dollars.
Oh God, dude, is he really gonna go down the road of inflation isn't caused by overprinting money? Instead, it's the greedy companies making more of it? I mean, since this guy doesn't want to actually present any evidence of this, I'm more than happy to share. So, over the last 2 years, the U.S.
Here he comes,
Federal
becoming a
Reserve
lawyer
has
again.
printed 80% of all U.S. dollars
becoming a
in
lawyer.
existence. This
Pretending
printing
to play
started at the
lawyer in
onset
your
of the
video.
COVID
Ugh,
pandemic to provide
gross.
stimulus checks to every American and other relief efforts. This occurred 3 times: April 2020, December 2020, and March 2021. Yeah, dude, when we're living in a scenario where over 80% of every single US dollar in circulation has been printed in the past 2 years, an increase in monetary supply is definitely the cause of inflation because it makes the dollar worth less. I mean, to fall back on literally the most basic of economic principles, the principle of supply and demand, as you increase
more
supply
lawyer
and
stuff.
demand
Oh
remains
my God.
constant, the price of that item
Why is he
or
playing a
value
lawyer?
of that item decreases.
Oh
So
my
flooding the
God.
market with a bunch of newly printed money does in fact increase inflation. It's not just the greedy corpos, because guess what, dude? Under every single economic circumstance known to mankind, corporations are always fucking greedy. Why does it just so
No
happen
way.
that we're seeing record-breaking inflation
Really?
when it directly correlates to 80% of all money in circulation in the United States being printed in the past 2 years as a direct result of COVID? It's not a coincidence, my guy.
That's a small piece of it. The truth is that the companies are just extremely greedy.
Yes. Totally.
That's right, man. 80% of all money ever being printed in the past 2 years is just a very small part of it.
So inflation is just a measure of how much the price of goods has gone up.
All right, man, you're getting it. And when the value of your dollar goes down because there's more of those dollars available in the market, what happens to prices as a result? Oh my God, they go up.
Gaming.
In case you guys couldn't tell, I really do love talking about these financial topics because I'd like to believe I do have some semblance of an idea of what I'm talking about when it comes to topics like this. And the topic of inflation, I always just laugh when people blame it on the companies and not the fact that 80% of all dollars in existence were printed in the past 2 years. Like, that's not going to have an effect on the value of the dollar as a whole, especially when we live in a global economy and we get most products from China where they literally devalue their own currency, making the effects of inflation even fucking worse because most of the products that are sold by American companies are actually made in China, not to mention we're not drilling for oil like we used to, and we're having to rely on foreign-produced oil, which increases the cost of transportation and manufacturing as a whole, which increases price. I
Fell
could go
asleep.
on for
What's
a
happening?
very, very long time about what is actually causing
How many
inflation.
shows this
But at
video
the end
have
of the day,
left?
man, companies are
10 minutes?
always going to be greedy, and if that were the root
Oh,
cause
shit.
of inflation, then we would have inflation like
Oh.
this constantly.
And the price of the people are getting paid is about the same, so that makes the inflation go up. That's how it works. It's not just printing money. Printing money is bad for inflation. If the wages don't go up, that's not happening, so that's bad. But then the companies are raising their prices on things, and they're not giving raises to their employees. And whenever their employees complain, they either get fired, or they say, "Oh, we don't have any money."
As someone who actually does have a real job and got a raise last year, this is 100% a fucking lie.
And then you look at the actual news, and they're all posting record profits.
I mean, in certain sectors, yes, or particular companies, yes, but I would say overall, the economy is doing very poorly right now, especially when you look at small to medium-sized businesses. Not to mention, you have to adjust those record profits for inflation, because $100 million today is not what $100 million was worth back in 2019. I don't really know what this fucking has to do with Activision Blizzard, though, man.
That's what inflation is. And that's what happens when only a few companies control everything. They can set the prices to be whatever they want, and you have to pay it or go without. Let's go over some reminders here. This is all the stuff that Disney has been allowed to acquire.
Dude, I'm just gonna be honest. I really don't give a fuck what Disney owns, because at the end of the day, if I never watch another Disney movie, TV show, or go to a Disney amusement park, my life is not gonna be significantly altered. We are talking about luxury entertainment products that have zero actual effect on people's lives other than mindless entertainment value that they provide. Like, I feel like a lot of people forget about that fact, but the same thing goes with video games, people. If you stopped playing video games tomorrow, your life would not be significantly altered by that decision, unless you're like Tyler Ninja Fortnite Blevins or your favorite Twitch streamer that makes a living playing video games. Then yes, their life would be altered, but at the end of the day, man, the vast majority of people are not going to be affected by an inability or just lack of interest in playing video games if they get too expensive. Which is again where the monopoly argument falls apart, because if the company has a monopoly but they price everyone out of the video game industry, what would be the point of having a monopoly if no one's buying your video games anyway? Like again, I just want to reiterate, by no definition is Microsoft buying Activision ever going to qualify as a monopoly, but even if it did, this entire argument is just absolutely stupid.
There's all this stuff. And there are so many interesting franchises that Disney has acquired, and they've just kind of disappeared. We don't really hear about them anymore. And that's because they're not billion-dollar franchises. And this is kind of what I want to look at this for companies like Microsoft and Tencent. Those are the two of the biggest companies in the world right now when it comes to the share of the video game industry. But once you get that big, you can start to set different guidelines and completely squash culture.
Oh no, dude, Microsoft Studios aren't making the exact video games I want them to. Whatever will we do? Our culture is dead as a whole. Like, bro, I think the principles of a capitalistic society are a little bit more important than you getting a fucking Star Wars movie that you enjoy, dude. Like, honestly, I think there's a little bit more at play here than whether or not your favorite video game franchises get a sequel or not, dude. But to just counter this point even further, look at the current state of the old Call of Duty titles. Microsoft got directly involved, told Activision, we're fixing the servers for these old Call of Duty games because when we take over the company, we want them fully functional so we can put them in the Game Pass. Well, guess what? As a result of Microsoft stepping in and having Activision fix those servers, it's completely revitalized those titles, and now there are over 100,000 concurrent players on multiple different Call of Duty titles on the Xbox 360 backwards compatible versions of those games. So if anything, the consolidation of the industry, which you claim is this evil fucking boogeyman, it has actually preserved culture in a sense. Whereas when Activision was running solo, they had the motivation to let those games die and neglect them, because then it would push people into buying the new versions of those games versus continuing to play the old ones. So if anything, you're kind of hurting your own case here, especially when it comes to Microsoft.
They start shoving everything into this tiny little box that everything has to be made a certain way, the certain formula has to be used, and we have to produce stuff that's going to, hit mass appeal. That leaves out a lot of the fringes. A lot of the counterculture is just completely gone. When one company is allowed to control this much of our culture, it kind of starts to destroy the culture.
Yeah, man, if there's anything that's going to destroy our culture, I don't think it's going to be shitty Star Wars and Marvel movies. But hey, what do I know?
Look at this. This is another thing. Warner Brothers, they're the other thing. Like, you got Disney and you got Warner Brothers, and they own all this, and we've got Multiversus the game, which I guess looks fun. But, I mean, it's a good way to look and just see how ridiculous all this is. You have Superman in the same game as Arya Stark, in the same game as Bugs Bunny, in the same game as Shaggy, in the same game as Batman, in the same game as Tom and Jerry, in the same game as Wonder Woman, in the same game as Adventure Time. Finn the Human. That's what I was looking for. Now, I guess some people think that that's awesome.
Yo, whatever you guys do not show this man Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But on a more serious note, I'm pretty sure you're the only one who doesn't view this as awesome, but go ahead, explain.
But, it's weird. It's really weird that all of this culture is just kind of slammed together.
Oh my god, guys, what are we gonna do? There's a bunch of cartoon characters put together in one video game, guys. I'm literally shaking right now. If this isn't the first stage of the culture war, I don't know what is.
Okay, I think it's a little gross. Whether the game's fun or not, and all this is make-believe and it's all silly, but I really miss the individual quirkiness that each individual thing has, each individual brand. And this is just me ranting right now. All right, I think that's kind of what's going to happen with all this Microsoft stuff. If we get that much under one umbrella, it's going to be bad for culture. And that's the main thing that I really care about. I mean, the money is really important, and I think it will be bad for consumers. It will remove choices from consumers. You'll have to choose one platform over the other to make sure that you get the games that you want.
My guy, you do realize that if the market truly consolidated like you're describing, that issue would go away completely. So if that's your angle and you don't like that manner of business practice, you should be going against having this many different platforms and instead support consolidation towards one where you can buy every single video game that you want on that one unified platform. Because the model we have in the console space right now is if you don't have a specific platform, there are games you literally cannot play. That is the existing manner of business in the market we have currently. So
that's
if
crazy.
anything, it's almost like you're making a case for a monopoly to occur, so you only have to buy one platform to play whatever games you want.
Games that you want. And a lot of franchises are just going to vanish because they don't measure up. And, you know, a big company like that, they can't focus on everything. They're going to put a gazillion dollars in just a few big silos, and all the rest of it's going to be like whatever. Like, look what happened to Deus Ex. Like, where the hell is that?
The company that owned the IP and created it could no longer afford to make it, so they sold the studio off to a different company, which is actually consolidating a bunch of different developers under one umbrella, and now that game actually has a chance of being funded and getting sequels. See how consolidation isn't always a bad thing? Just like those old Call of Duty titles that were left out there to rot and die, they now have new life breathed into them because of Microsoft consolidating the industry. And in case you didn't notice, Activision is definitely one for neglecting their old franchises and just pursuing those big titles that make, quote, bajillions of dollars. So it's not like it's going to get worse under Microsoft's leadership.
They're probably busy working on some nonsense. I think it got sold. I don't even know. But yeah, it's weird. And then when you look at the cost of these things, and this is, again, I'm just kind of ranting out of turn right now, but when a company like Microsoft buys something like this, they don't like to use the word buy. They're
Preach,
shifting
brother.
value around.
Preach.
It's like
I hear you.
Value in their stock
Hell yeah, man.
for all of that property.
No, it's literally.
Did you know this whole
direct
video
write-off
is
from
about
Microsoft.
the
amount of
Microsoft
money they're
acquisition?
spending on Activision Blizzard
That's
is less than the total
educational
profit
right
they
there.
made last year. This is literally a
This
tax
whole video
write-off
is
for
about the
them. They're buying
Microsoft
an asset that they
acquisition.
view as profitable at that price in order
Be
to
educated,
put their
people.
existing profits into.
You
to
probably
avoid
didn't
having
know
to
that by
lose
the
20
video
to
itself,
30%
but
of that in
there you go.
corporate
I
tax.
educated you.
And their value stays
You're
the
welcome.
same. You know what I mean? They've given up this much of their own value in their stocks and whatever money, maybe. And they've acquired all those things. So to them, their value is still the same. And they're still living by, you know, taking out loans based upon their stocks, and that's how they live because they don't have to pay taxes on the loans they've taken out.
No, they're not taking out debt. This is an all-cash deal because what they're going to do is they're going to put this expenditure on their balance sheet against their net income for the year and avoid having to pay taxes on that money. Just like if you were to buy a new microphone and camera for your YouTube videos, you would be able to write that off on your taxes against the money that your YouTube channel brings in.
That's how the rich do it. Anyway, we'll have to see what happened. I know the FTC is going to fight this. A very bad precedent because something on this scale, it's huge. And if the FTC loses its appeal, we're going to see so much consolidation so quickly, and it's going to start transferring wealth to the top even faster.
God, I hate this socialist bullshit, bro. Oh, it's going to transfer wealth to the top faster. Well, if you want to get in on that wealth transfer, start buying stocks, dipshit. Last time I checked, you don't have to be in the top 1% to open a fucking Robinhood account.
Hopefully this will go through. I am making the video before I know what's happening with this. But hopefully the appeal becomes a thing.
Spoiler alert, they lost. Good fucking riddance.
Gaming.
Hopefully they get a little more focus, but this is not going to be good for you. This is not something that you should be gloating about on social media. This is not a way to like score one against the other console people that you hate so much. This is not that. This is bad for all of us.
Nah, I made $5,000 off of this acquisition. This shit's fucking great.
It's bad for culture. It'll set a terrible precedent moving forward. That's the end of the video. I just wanted to cover some of this stuff, give you a little bit more perspective in case you're missing stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, if you knew nothing about this acquisition before coming to this video, you probably left with just about the same amount of understanding, if not a load of misinformation piled on top.
All right, that's the end of this. Let me know what you think.
And just like that, the video is over, guys. You know, I really...
Okay, well, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, because, you know, this was a lot of work for me. I had to react to all this. Reacting is a very difficult thing to do. You know, it's very tough. So make sure to like the channel. My sponsor for today is G Fuel, so make sure you pick yourself up some G Fuel. Thank you for watching the video. Bye.